Hey guys, SKNova here. Maybe I'm a little bit late to the party because, the reset's at 3 a.m. I gotta go to work before I can make these videos, but I still want to make a video about my take on the new heroes. That's actually pretty exciting. I think there are some good heroes. People complain that the new heroes dilute the pool, but a lot of these characters add something that's new or a little bit different. We have one of the legendaries that kind of counters Tormund. So there's some cool stuff. So let's just jump right into it. This is going to be about the new heroes. Whoops, not that one. That are in the game. So I haven't pulled any shards. I don't have them yet. It's the Valentine's Day fusion coming up. Valentine's Day, they have a lot of pairs. Before they had, the Venus and Cupidus pairing and was it Talia and Phoenix, like those kind of things. Might do a video that'll be interesting on the different pairings that they've created and which ones I think are the best. But the first hero here, Minaya, she actually has a pairing with the Skinwalker werewolf looking dude, which is actually pretty awesome. Minaya on her own isn't super amazing. I think Bannerlords have this sort of healing vibe going with them. They have Sedalia, they have Lugan for legendaries, Azur. They have a bunch of heroes that can kind of like do some healing and maybe a little bit of damage, and that's kind of their shtick. Minaya is no different here. This is actually a pretty good ability, especially countered on it or coupled with counterattack heroes because she's always going to be placing continuous heals, just doing what she does anyways. She has a pretty strong heal on her A2 here. The flat heal is interesting because it'll scale really well early on. If you happen to pull her early and your heroes only have 10k HP, that's gonna be like a 100% heal for people that are only level 50 or whatever. But as you get higher up and your character's like a Mountain King with 100k health, whatever the max ones have, it's very little. So it's kind of an interesting ability that it doesn't scale based off percentage of HP. It's just a flat stat, making it potentially not as good late game. And so I think she is actually a little bit weaker for like high end arena. But her partner is really strong when she's there. So it's a kind of like a tough trade off that she's okay as a hero by herself, not great. She's a little bit better with her partner, but her partner gets so much better with her there. So it'd be interesting if you happen to manage to get the two legendaries to pull this couple off. It could be very powerful. The heal reduction is not super important in most content right now. Like Fire Knight and maybe the Spirit Keep are the only two places you would need it. Choose the wrong affinity for the Spirit Keep. But maybe with the new clan boss, heal reduction will be more important and people will use it there. But just the flat heal is okay. But that ability is kind of meh for the most part. This one's also interesting, and the block debuff is a really good ability, but it's hard when it's paired or requires you to have another buff. Luckily, her partner places this buff quite a bit, so you will have characters with increased defense buff, but you probably want to have one or two other characters to make sure that this goes up because the block debuff is so important. If you were to use her in arena, I don't think you would use Minaya in the arena without, what's his name, Qhorin. Qhorin, the Skinwalker guy, who's an awesome Void Legendary. We will get to him soon. She does have the passive ability, which increases turn meter, but you hardly ever want to use this because it means your character is dying. And if she's not reviving, then at that point, 20% increase in turn meter is not the greatest thing ever. And even though it's on like a 4-turn cooldown, she won't use it much because she'd be dead. unless you have characters that are going to revive her. So that's not a huge, fantastic ability. So I'd say on her own, she's actually a poor character. And I don't think her stats, justify taking her for any useful purpose, but you would only really use her if you had the other legendary partner, Qhorin, to pair her with. Most of the rares I won't go into, except for the ones that are in the Knight Revenant clan, or they're actually pretty good. Most of the other rares are just okay, as are most of the rares in the Bannerlords thing. There's nothing really that stand out as awesome, so we'll just skip that one. Skip over to Barbarians. This hero is actually really interesting. Quite the outfit, first thing. A lot of people have commented on that. Her first two abilities are super powerful. Attacking all enemies is actually fantastic because that's one thing that the Barbarians don't have. They don't have a lot of AoE heroes, especially not with an AoE A1 ability. So because of that, potentially you would She's a support character. She's a great choice to put in a stun set because it's not really going to take away a lot from her damage. She's not a high damaging character to begin with, and the stun set can proc even without a ton of accuracy, but you probably still want some. So she would be good for that purpose. This ability is actually really good too because it heals if she has less than 50% damage, and it boosts turn meter if she's above 50% damage. So no matter what, that's really good. Coupled with the fact that she has pretty good A2. The debuff removal is fantastic, and the block debuffs is also great on a 4-turn cooldown, which is pretty good. Not necessarily the best version of this ability in the game, but on a epic character, really good. So she has 2 good things going for her, which sounds awesome. But then you see her passive, which damages her every turn and places a decreased speed and potentially a fear debuff. I think if it didn't have that fear debuff, it might be really good. But because of that, it just makes it so inconsistent that if you're hoping or relying on her getting it, there's a good chance she gets the fear debuff and isn't able to use her ability. It's not the true fear, so you won't lose the turn if you use it. If you lose the ability, you won't trigger the cooldown. But it's so detrimental to her, and the fact that she's always going to basically have the decreased speed debuff on her. She's always going to be 30% slower. She's not going to be able to go every turn for most times. Like there's going to be times when she may not get a turn in the round. It's kind of detrimental, but it'll be interesting to see how people can use her. It's kind of what Barbarians needed, but it comes with a cost. So I think that's kind of like a cool trade-off. Her first 2 abilities are pretty powerful for an epic, but her third ability kind of brings her back down, and it'll be interesting to see if she can be used or not. I think just her outfit is pretty good on her own, so A for outfit, and for abilities, probably a little bit hard to use. I said I wasn't going to talk about rares, but Soulbound Warrior for the early on faction wars might be pretty good. Again, she is attack all, which is something that Barbarians were lacking in, and she has pretty good A2 and A3. Like the turn meter decrease is always good. So for the boss type levels, even stage 21 boss, she might be one you want to bring. You can put the stun set on her. She's got the chance of attacking. She needs less crits than most, so even at 75% crit, she will crit quite a bit. Because she's a rare, her stats are going to be a little bit lower, but she makes up for it by ignoring defense on her A2 and turn meter on her A3. Those are pretty good abilities. She does require a lot of books, but at least it's rare books and not epic, like Zakara and Alika, the other barbarians that came out. So I could see her actually being used somewhat as a rare, even at high level. So I think that's a pretty cool thing to have. So we'll skip all the way to Skinwalkers. I think there's actually 2 super good Void legendaries with these heroes that came out. Qhorin being the first one. He's the one I was talking about that pairs with Minaya. And one thing that Skinwalkers were lacking was a character with an AoE A1, which he does provide. He is actually good to great on his own. He's probably like A tier on his own, but with Minaya, that probably pushes him up to almost S tier level. Like he has all the abilities you want. First ability with a decreased turn meter, which goes up to 100% if Minaya is there. Pair that with counterattack, right? And the fact that he kind of has, I think he has a built-in counterattack, doesn't he, on his passive? So if Minaya is there, he's counterattacking all the time. He has a turn meter decrease. Fantastic pairing of abilities. I don't think anybody else has an... Allure is probably the closest one who has a turn meter decrease, but because it's attacks 3 characters random, you don't know who it's going to hit. But this is going to hit all your enemies with a 10%, which isn't huge, turn meter decrease, but counterattacks every single time. So when you're fighting the Torment type teams that typically have a lot of counterattack and they're always hitting you, he's always going to be countering back, as long as he's not frozen, with turn meter decrease, which is really cool. So that alone is super powerful. He's an HP based hero with a ton of HP, also pretty powerful, so he's going to hit pretty hard, I believe. It all depends on scaling, so we'll have to see how it turns out. I don't think he's going to be like a Mountain King because he doesn't have the ignore defense type ability that Mountain King has, but he's going to be pretty tanky, and he's going to be not just a support character. I can see him doing quite a bit of damage as well. Of course, I don't have him. We don't know how he scales, so it'll be hard to see. You can see by his stats, like really high HP. His defense is relatively low, and his speed is kind of average. Crit damage is also low, but high base resist. So all those things kind of add up to, I think he could actually be pretty good. Actually, probably going to be really good. Um, so his A2, on top of reducing everyone's turn meter, he has a chance for provoke, which you can get up to 100% if he's booked. He places a block debuff and an increased defense buff. He'll be on a 3-turn cooldown once he's booked. Minaya does a lot better because she also places block debuffs if they have the increased defense buff, I believe. So that pairing could actually be a pretty good combo to take on the Torments in the world. It's kind of like Tormund was released in the last patch and dominated everything, and the counter to Tormund was kind of like the Duchess team because of block debuffs, or Mausoleum Mage, and anybody who had block debuffs on all allies was good against Tormund. And now you've got a good pairing that can compete with that. So definitely hard to pull 2 legendaries, especially one of them being Void, and expecting that to work anytime soon. But at least it's in the game, and there's a chance someday that you can get that and you'll have that. I would have liked to see more of this kind of stuff on Epic Heroes, so people had the opportunity, or more people had the opportunity to kind of create that combo. But it is what it is. Moving debuffs before placing it if he's on the team is also very important, because one of the things is if he has a block buffs on him, then he won't be able to place the block debuffs and increased defense. And there's a few heroes out there now that have block buff debuff. Debuffs obviously aren't as popular as buffs because it requires accuracy to land them. But I mean, still on there, and Minaya makes this ability just, that one step better. His A3, again, placing debuffs, but placing a decreased attack and a decreased defense. So I think the way this would work is if the decreased attack lands, then you get the decreased defense with it. I might be wrong on that. Of course, I don't have him to try out. But basically, either you get both debuffs or you get one. Maybe they both go through the accuracy resistance check. So you maybe could land decreased attack and decreased defense could be resisted. Something that we'd have to find out and to try out. But basically, it's just placing 2 great debuffs. And it's on all enemies. Like, everything he does is AoE to all. Skinwalkers are really lacking that before, and now they have one character that has it everywhere. So definitely, if there was a character that you wanted to have to finish the Skinwalkers stage 21, all the way to stage 21 for Faction Wars, this guy is it. However, you would not have Minaya because she's not in the same faction. But he still is really, really good. So if you do land the debuffs on the enemy team, which you can fairly easy do with this guy, he's going to be counterattacking them anyways, but if you have Minaya, you always get to counterattack. So he could be used in Arena. I mean, there's a possibility, but I think Minaya would not be used by herself. But with this guy, I mean, that'd be a pretty good pairing. And I could see some Arena teams that would really work because they both combine for a bunch of block debuffs. And, these two with a Torment with one other damage dealer like a Mountain King or someone that can do pretty heavy damage would be a pretty good combo. And there you go. And so he has a second way of placing increased defense on all allies if he kills somebody. So he's got kind of 2 ways of placing increased defense, which is what the counterpart Minaya also kind of needed to place her block debuffs, I believe. Where is that? Yeah, so if your allies are under increased defense, she also places a block debuffs. So quite awesome synergy between those two. Out of all of the combos, these guys, Minaya and Qhorin, probably have the best synergy combos of any 2 pairs because a lot of their abilities work well together. So that's kind of cool. But just like Venus and Cupidus, it's a combo that's incredibly hard to get, unfortunately. Just want to mention Sand's Last Survivor, mostly because of her passive. I think these abilities are pretty meh. She has a really low chance of placing a Provoke. And it requires if the champion has no debuff, so already hard to do. Heals, meh. But the kind of cool thing is that her passive is to place an ally protection buff for 2 turns, every 4 turns. That's kind of unique. The 4-turn cooldown is probably a little bit too high. But this is a cool idea of a way of protecting heroes. And I think it'd be a cool passive for more characters to have. She is a defensive hero. It's not a totally new thing, but I kind of like that idea where you have a way of passively protecting heroes that get damaged. And that could be useful in a lot of different areas. And so, Morbid, I don't think she would typically be used even in Faction Wars right now, but I kind of like that concept. So just wanted to give a little mention for that one. Nothing new in Demon Spawn. Undead Horde, however, has some interesting abilities. Rotos and Sippy. Now, everyone, I've, I've seen a few comments and stuff on Reddit about Sippy being awesome and Rotos being not that good. I agree Sippy is awesome, but I also think Rotos is better than a lot of people are suspecting. We'll talk about him quick. He's going to be the new fusion based off the news that just came out. And if you look at his abilities, and if you were to design characters with abilities and you assigned a cost to certain abilities, like how much is an extra turn worth on an ability? Having an A1 with a chance of an extra turn is pretty powerful. It's kind of like a Relentless set. So you've seen people with videos on Robar in a Relentless set, where if his stun lands, he gets an extra turn, and his extra turn proc from his stun can proc an extra turn from Relentless or another stun. It can carry on, and people are getting 7 or 8 turns from this. This guy can basically do the same thing. But on top of that, he's also placing decreased defense on the enemy. So that's a debuff that the Undead Horde don't have a ton of characters that do. He does it. It'll be interesting to see how his damage scales. And that's one of the key things about this guy is, damage based on attack is one thing. If you look at his base HP here, 11,895 is insanely low. This is like Cold Heart or rare level HP, lowest of all the legendaries. But his H2 has something really neat in that as he's attacking enemies with his A2, he's increasing his HP. It's on a 2-turn cooldown, so you're not going to get this every round. He's going to have to last a few rounds in order for this to happen. But say you're attacking a character with high health like Mountain King, who has 80 to 100k health, you're getting 15 to 20k health per every 2 rounds. So in 3 or 4 rounds, you're going to be at whatever you're at, say 20, 30, 40k base plus another 60k on top of that. So you're basically going to be like another Mountain King in terms of tank ability and health. His attack is fairly high, and his defense is fairly high. And if you can survive a few rounds, his HP is going to be insanely high. He's going to have insanely high stats. His damage for all of his abilities is going to start scaling with his HP as well, doing more and more damage. So once people start fusing him and you can kind of see the damage numbers, we'll know if he scales well or not. It's too early to tell if this attack HP scaling will work. You have to make him pretty tanky to be able to survive 3, 4, 6, 10 rounds to realize his full damage, but it could still happen. And the fact that he's able to get an extra turn, plus you put Relentless Set on him, he's going to get cooldowns for his A2 much faster. So he uses A2, the cooldowns in 2 turns. Next turn you use your A1, gives you an extra turn, you use your A2 again. Use your A1 again, gives you an extra turn, you can use your A2 again. So it might be even like every round, you might be able to get your A2 in. It will be interesting to see. And then on top of that, characters like Mountain King and Royal Huntsman who have the ability to ignore defense is very strong. The ability to go through unkillable and block damage buffs kind of nullifies characters like Roshguard and Sir Nicholas, also very strong. Plus the fact that who gets an extra turn, if they kill someone, that's very strong. Plus the fact that if he kills them, they cannot be revived. Super strong. So this ability on a 3-turn cooldown could be super, super powerful. So if you're hitting someone, you hit them with your A1, you take them down a little bit of health, you get an extra turn from this, or from your Relentless gear that you're wearing on this character, and they're almost dead, they have a sliver of health, you use your A3, you finish them off, now they can't be revived. So definitely a lot of manual and what-ifs type scenarios to make this guy really powerful, but I think he has a lot of potential because of that. A lot of things can happen. If you just look at his base stats and say his HP is too low, he's going to get one shot. Perhaps. So yeah, that's the risk you have to take. That's the trade-off for how good this guy gets as he scales up. Is he's very weak in the beginning, so you have to make sure he's protected and survives the first couple of rounds because he's only going to get stronger and stronger as the round goes on. So interesting. It's not used on the nuke tech teams, but with the current meta with Tormund, Rotos and Sippy are kind of designed to be the counters to Tormund. You're going to go a number of rounds. The more rounds you go, you have a damage dealer now that can compete with a lot of characters. Mountain King may be a counter due to the affinity, but that combo can be very, very strong in the meta today with Tormund. So very cool. I like it. It might be a hard combo to pull off again. You require a Void Legendary and at least he's a fusionable character. We still require Sippy to really make that combo happen, but their synergy is not huge together anyways. Not as much as uh, Minaya and Qhorin are. Like, the only synergy this guy has with Sippy is this ability here. So it decreases damage on bosses. So in a clan boss or dungeon scenario, that might matter. One thing to think about is, the other PvE content that is coming soon, someday, is the Void Tower, where you probably have to do harder and harder dungeon type levels. Will there be bosses on those levels? This probably would count there. So all in all, I think actually good character. I mean, I also said that Foley and Molly were good characters, and people kind of hate on them, but they kind of see the potential after they start using them. I think this guy has a lot of potential, and a lot of his goodness will depend on can you keep him alive? Is he squishy? And how does he scale once his HP, goes when he gets 60k extra HP? How hard does he hit at that point? And that's what you want to see. Or after he dies, does he retain that max health, or does it go back down? You have to get it back again. That could be a factor too, in how good he is. So I look forward. I think the fusion will be very good to do. Let's just skip over and talk about the fusion because it's in the news already. People are saying, this is a fusion to skip. I think he could be used in a lot of content. The way that he scales, useful in PvE and in PvP. Probably even more useful in PvE, especially in stuff like maybe the future clan boss, because it's going to go a number of rounds. You're going to get that max health, and he's going to be doing top damage, within a few rounds. So one to look out for sure. The fusion requires a lot of new heroes, but a few of the old ones, and a lot of the void rares you'd have to keep. So basically all of the new rares that have come out are in here, plus a bunch of the void rares, older void rares as well. So Azure is the only one that you could have had prior to these new characters being added. So if you have him, that saves you a few characters that you need here. Mystic Hand is an original one. Hollow is an original one, but Myrmidon, Soulbound Boiler's a new character. Sort of like Corpulent Cadaver. Is that? Nope, that's the old one, I think. Coffin Smasher's new one. So it's probably not a super easy fusion to do. It looks like it's going to be a little bit easier than Tormund. There's not as many void rares that you need. People will be pulling a lot of sacreds with the new sacred event coming this weekend. So there's a chance you're going to get some of these guys from that. But I think Rotos is definitely one to do. I mean, the cost of getting a legendary this way is definitely a lot cheaper than trying to pull a legendary. Now with more people going free to play and stuff, it might be harder, but I would still do it. I'm going to be doing it regardless. So I would recommend people do it too, but again, it's your resources, your time, your money. You do what you like. But I don't think he's going to be a crappy legendary. I think he's actually going to be pretty good. And yeah, just do it. So Sippy would have been cool if she was a fusible character, because I think she is slightly better than Rotos. So the sleep debuff isn't necessarily the best one, but because she places it when their turn meter is higher, fantastic for like faction wars, fantastic for arena, where you can definitely, when it's her turn, CC at least one member on the opposing team. With counterattack and things like that, it's a little bit harder to time, but still good. So, if the enemy team has counterattack on all their heroes, you can at least sleep them, and then they won't be able to counterattack you. So stuff like that can be very good. It's not a useless debuff. A stun or something would have been better, but hey, take what you can take. And if she heals, if they're, 5% is not a lot, but it's something. So it's a very unique A1 that no one else has, and I think it could be pretty useful. Turn meter increase is always good no matter where you go. 15% isn't the luck, but it comes with the block debuffs, increased defense, increased speed on a 3-turn cooldown. So if you think about that, if you look at her base speed of 114, she is super fast, and she's going to be placing these buffs on heroes a lot. So basically your team will always have these buffs up. If you make her super fast, she's probably going to be able to, lap a lot of players who have the 180 to 200 speed, which is kind of the average I'd say for most heroes, if you're not trying to get a lot of speed, and you could probably get her up to 280 to 300 speed if you so wanted to, and still make her relatively tanky, then you'd have these debuffs or these buffs up quite a bit. So I think that's a great ability. Revive is really good too. It's not quite as good as Raglan's Revive. It gives them 55% HP, and then Raglan gives 75%, but it also puts these buffs on them. The downside to that is in the arena Torment meta, those buffs will also trigger Torment's passive, which might freeze them. And that takes us to the last point, is that she can also remove freeze from all the heroes. However, it's at the start of the turn, so she will have put the buffs on them. They would have got frozen. It's not until her next turn that she can unfreeze them. So that's not so good. But it also comes with the ability, if you do use Rotos in combination with her, she definitely removes all debuffs from them. And it's a 50% chance to remove the debuffs, which is not perfect, but it's still pretty good. And the fact that it's a passive, you don't have to do anything, it doesn't have a cooldown, that makes it pretty good. And she just happens to come with a resist aura, which is kind of what you want in the arena meta these days with Torment. So for all those reasons, she's not a hard counter to Torment, but she does enough to counteract what Torment does. And she could be very useful because of that. So definitely top tier legendary. Sippy and Qhorin are two Void legendaries that are really, really good. So it's cool that they're making Void legendaries be top tier, like really, really good. It's just too bad that they're so hard to get. And now with the unkillable nerf, less people are going to be pulling all these shards. People will probably, at this next Void event, people will be pulling shards like crazy, but after that, it's going to slow down significantly. So you probably won't see a ton of Sippy out there anytime soon. Just like, well, even less than you see of Hegemon now, just because there's not going to be as many Void shards flooding into the ecosystem. Frost King, we kind of went over in the previous video. I think he's good. I don't think he is meta changing, but I think he's top tier. Not top tier, but he's like an A. If there was an S tier, he'd be just below that, based off what people are saying, because he is a defensive hero with a lot of damaging abilities, pretty tanky, good speed, good buffs. I think he's good. I have to see him in action to know for sure, but definitely up there. It's Vulture Sentinel. Now this is an interesting one. I have it down here. She could be the replacement, definitely for Tayrell for the attack down debuff. If you look at her A1, she's also going to be way better than Tayrell when you're fighting a Force Affinity clan boss. But what makes her really cool is this passive ability. Well, we'll go over all of them here. A1 puts decreased defense up. It's only a single hit, but it works out to a 60% chance when she's fully skilled. So with a counterattack team, which most people in clan boss are using, you have a pretty good chance of keeping this debuff up. Right? May not be perfect. Maybe Tayrell's is I think it's 50% in 2 hits. Maybe a little bit better, but you're probably going to have decreased attack up. You definitely don't want that buff to go off though. So that is important. Cool thing is she has the block debuffs, so she can block the clan boss's stun, which is a big problem and reduces damage and screws up your turn rotation and stuff like that. So you really want to have a character that can either remove debuffs, like Doom Priest or Bad L, or a character that blocks debuff like Grizzle Jarl and Sentinel here. So definitely a good thing to have. The problem is that it's a 4-turn cooldown. So that doesn't work well with the current clan boss, and you wouldn't be able to have it up all the time. Basically every second clan boss turn, you wouldn't be able to avoid the stun with her. But increased defense is a very powerful thing. You want to use this. It is too bad that it doesn't have 2 levels and reduced down to 3 turns, because then that would be perfect for clan boss. But I think it kind of makes up for it because, oh hey, she has a chance to completely block damage. So I don't know if it just works on one character. That'll be the kind of the clincher thing to try, or if it blocks all damage. So if the boss does an AoE damage to all 5 characters, does she block all damage? I mean, that would be huge. And it's basically once per turn. So as long as you're faster or equal to the clan boss's speed, you have a chance to do this every single round. And that alone is super, super powerful. Even if you're not blocking stuns on every turn, being able to block that incoming damage will just give you that extra turn, right? Because usually what happens in clan bosses, you get near the end, And if you have the all lifesteal gear and all your characters, you know, he's going to hit you and you're not going to be able to heal up to full. He hits you again, and if you don't die, you know, that third or fourth hit, but eventually, you know, your character's going to die. Once you're really geared up, you usually go until you're one shot. This might at least give you an extra round, right? So super cool ability, just makes your team sustain and last longer. Extremely powerful if it can block damage on all of your heroes at once. I mean, or if it's 25% per hero. Either way, cool ability, very unique, and I think that's why she gets to be mentioned and could be very good. So if you get her from the fusion and you're not going to do Rotos, at least get her, but I would recommend getting Rotos. Having Rotos is probably better than having her. She has replacement options. And then the dwarves have a couple of rares that aren't very good, so we won't mention them. There you go. Long video, that's what I do. I like to make long videos. I do look forward to pulling Qhorin if possible, so I'm going to save all the voids I can till the next double summon event in hopes of pulling them. And 1 in a million, just like trying to pull a Hegemon, you know, hard to do. So that's probably not going to happen. But little shout out, there's going to be a double sacred event. I will be doing some shard pulls. Some people have asked me to pull shards for them as well, since I'm making videos now. There's a lot of people with a lot of sacreds out there. If you would like me to pull your sacreds, get in touch with me. I'm in Canadian Mountain Standard Time, so usually around, server time plus say 13 hours is the time I can be online. I will probably pull a lot more shards on Saturday than tomorrow, just because of work and whatnot. So if you want me to pull a shard Saturday, most of the day Saturday, I can be made available to help make videos. Or if you want to save your shards till Sunday and do a big opening then, happy to do it. So let me know. I'm going to link my Discord in the bottom of this video. So if you're interested in doing something like that, give me a shout out, add me as a friend, and get in touch, and then we'll do some shard openings. Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, guys. Hope you like this video. See you in the next one.